Okay, I'm getting up, I'm getting up. Not so alarm capable now, huh? Oh, everything hurts. Dio mio, my head hurts. Too many dirty martinis with Hugo last night. Oh, my eyes. I need coffee. Must have coffee. Damn it. I need to post a video on YouTube, but what am I gonna post? Something about that Watches and Wonders thing. When is that? Maybe it happened already. Maybe it doesn't even exist. What time is it? Oh, what the... Lavazza. I can't believe my first video nearly 10 years ago was about making coffee and not watches. Now there's a combination of subjects nobody has ever made enjoyable. Where is that blue F77 with the date that I ordered? Let me check the tracking. Wait, delayed? The hell am I gonna make a video about now? Oh my god. Am I gonna have to talk about new watch releases like everybody else? Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. As always, I'll start with my wristwatch check, wearing a Santos Galbi by Cartier, of course, with that beautiful little moon phase. I've talked endlessly about it, so I'll spare you any more of me going on about it. Don't forget to like this video, very important indeed if you want to see more free, independent content like this. Recently, as much as I tried to block it out of my social media, there was a whole slew of new releases that managed to somehow still infiltrate my watch-obsessed mind. Annoyingly, there's always going to be that yearly hype around the new Rolex releases. And with that, Tudor, naturally, not far behind, typically the more interesting of those two. Well, maybe not this year. Before it was cancelled permanently, it was the historic Baselworld, held annually around March, that became my yearly reason for me staying offline for a week or so. Post-pandemic, it's now Watches and Wonders, or is it Wonders and Watches? Well, whichever. But regardlessly, the effect on my own collecting aspirations and goals remains, as always, unchanged. I genuinely feel more excited about meeting fellow enthusiasts at our own Gentry events over the pomp and circumstance of giant trade fairs, which, let's face it, really don't care about us in the end. I also don't like the idea of paying thousands to fly there and essentially do their marketing for them, when the money could be saved towards an actual watch I want to learn about. Or finally that trip to Japan, to the Seiko Museum, or even the Omega Museum in Switzerland, and eventually make more content to share from the perspective of a real enthusiast. Or just satisfy an unrelentingly persistent desire to buy a refurbished Windows 95 laptop just so I can play Command & Conquer Tiberium Sun. Fingers crossed for a remastered edition of that. And don't even get me started on collecting more movies, books, and so on. Right, back to watches. I have to say though, the 1908 is kind of pure class, no? That was unexpected. And the full gold GMT, I kind of like it in a Gordon Gekko kind of jet set kind of a way, if that makes sense. But anyway, that's about it. End of the Rolex segment. Oh, and that 37, is it 37mm, the Black Bay, whatever it is? Yeah, not bad. Having said that, if I had to choose, I'd still pick the 36mm vintage Submariner every single time that I used to own. I still prefer vintage Tudor. I'm still waiting for the big block. You know, the one where is it? I'll put it there. The one I predicted, come on. V-shaped layout, it'd fly off the shelves, no? And the Monte Carlo, ma dove sei, ma dove sei? I want to see that with a new in-house Kanasai, whatever it is, movement. At the end of the day, there is still so much more interesting watches to discuss already out there. Take the Capolavoro that is my Universal Geneve White Shadow that Gentry designed pre-Royal Oak and Patek blatantly homaged before hiring him. And my particular version also has that revolutionary micro rotor inside. I did a whole video deep dive on it, and it's fascinating stuff. The cliche, the gift that keeps on giving, is just perfect in this regard. I just don't understand why more people are not talking about that watch. With the perpetual repetitive Ouroboros that is watches on social media, a watch industry that is, well, quite honestly, a complete mess, along with YouTube becoming ruined by endless vapid watch dealer content and true watch journalism being essentially dead at this point, I can understand why new watches might not be as exciting as they once were. FYI, I will be doing a video on how the watch industry is doomed at some point.
So if you go to the big three, Rolex, Audemars Piguet, or Patek Philippe, those watches are trading online, the pre-owned versions, for 2 to 3 times the brand new retail price.
What?
Gen Z millennials who just became, during the pandemic, obsessed with mechanical watches.
Like records. They're bringing back the records, they're bringing back the watches.
But let's not get too dark here. I do not want to turn into some kind of horological Howard Beale, even though I am very tempted.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
So let's distract ourselves with a quick unboxing. But I wanted to say, actually, there is a certain amount of pressure always to cover the latest, the newest thing, the latest release of this and that, and obviously certain brands. But to be honest, I'm only ever really interested in about, 5% of new releases. And with that said, maybe it's the contrarian in me. I prefer to wait when the hype and all the conjecture and all of this stuff has died down and I can have hands-on experience with it. And like I've said before, there's no greater education than experience. But in the meantime, how do I stay interested in watches? Let's take a look. For me, it's my own combination of good old-fashioned, stubbornly, almost myopic British fortitude, a healthy amount of undying Italian passion, all balanced with an American let's-get-on-with-it style of pragmatism. I am a uniquely strange creature indeed, I know. Now, I need another watch like I need a hole in the head, but I didn't need the new/used Panerai, my first one incidentally, that I started off this year with, nor the White Shadow that I acquired shortly after. But they all represent something crucial to me and the channel. Almost like when the Ubermensch He-Man grabs his sword and yells,
By the power of Grayskull!
Maybe just not so dramatic and with less terrible hair. These new rabbit holes to fall into, the stories around the watches, the brands, how they wear in the flesh, revealing nuances, feelings and experiences over time. These are some of the most rewarding aspects of our mutual hobby. In fact, there are so many exciting brands still to discover and hidden gems that are largely forgotten about to then share and enjoy, both new and old. I actually find it overwhelming. So this is also why I am not rushing out to chase views and talk about another Rolex with a wacky different dial or new Tudor that is essentially the same as the last one, but maybe 2mm smaller or 2mm larger, or another color bezel brought back, or most likely with the higher end brands, unobtainable but highly innovative, impressive horology that is some unimaginable super complex complication that kind of makes my brain hurt. Let's be honest again, even if I did have DuckTales money, I would most likely still wear my Panerai, my Squire, Hanhart, Casio, or vintage Tudor, Rolex, and so on. You see, most people don't understand that even if you have 1 million subscribers, or 3 million, and hundreds of thousands of views weekly, ad revenue is so low, YouTube is not sustainable full-time, which in the end kind of works to my advantage, as it keeps it more of a passion project, and I get to talk about watches that actually interest me. And the last thing I ever want to do is to become some kind of shilling platform, or someone pretending to be an enthusiast that actually is just a watch dealer. Another reason why every few months I like to introduce brands never seen on the channel before to keep things fresh. Okay, quick knife check before we get into the unboxing. We got the case rust lock here. I'm searching for, after becoming, or rather converting to the Paneristi, as a Panerista now myself, I wanted to find an affordable alternative, and this being around $1,000. Well, as this brand is doing so well, let's check it out. They always do a really good job, there we go, with their packaging. I love how they utilize old vintage advertising. Right, drum roll please. Oh wow, they sent me a green dial. Look at that. And that's a really nice green as well. I mean, yes, it's chunky, but for a 1,000-meter depth rating, that's crazy. Actually, the scalloped case back is very similar to the Panerai. You can see I've been wearing the hell out of this. It's become my luxury beater. But of course we get, oh, that is, ooh, hello. Quite a cushion case, even more cushion than the Panerai. It's it's got a helium escape valve. Wow, this is crazy. So this is 1,000 meters water resistant with a Swiss automatic and helium escape valve. So what's so special about the Depthmaster? As we have gone into detail about Nivada Grenchen's rich heritage in previous reviews, let's focus on where this dive watch fits in to the whole scheme of things. What made the Chronomaster so successful, which was launched in 1961, aside from its classical elegance, was its groundbreaking high water resistance of 200 meters, which for a chronograph made it the first of its kind, and thus super versatile as a true do-it-all, any situation chrono. And with its following success, they needed another subsequent hit. So they applied the same logic to their first dive watch, the appropriately named Depthmaster. And I must remember to add some reverb in the editing, so note to my future self there. Just sounds so cool. Depthmaster. It can withstand a pressure of a staggering 100 atmos, or 1,000 meters. Launched in 1965, this made it one of the very first commercially available dive watches capable of this rating, many claiming the Geneve Caribbean 1000 being the first, only a year earlier in 1964. Just to give you an idea of how significant this is, let's put it into perspective. The first Sea Dweller didn't come out until 1967. Doxa hadn't even started making divers until the late 60s. Omega's ultra-deep diving Plongeur Professionnel came out in 1969, and Blancpain was still relying on watch cases made by Squale for their deepest divers. Like the Squale Master, which is perhaps the Depthmaster's only true rival, first introduced also in 1965. So what about Panerai? Well, as far as I know, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, the Luminor submersible PAM 64, aka La Bomba, only came out in the year 2000. Oh, and let's not forget the Zodiac Super Seawolf that came out, I believe, in 1968. That was reissued in 2020, I think, but that retails at around 1,600. So the Nivada Grenchen Depthmaster beats that as well. I'm trying to think of any other 1,000 meter saturation capable, you know, with a helium escape valve that competes with the Depthmaster. I can't. Guys, if you have any nominations, in the comments. So is the Depthmaster a homage of the Panerai watches? I honestly don't think it is, because if you look back when the original came out in the 60s, Panerai was really a small, obscure brand and only made military issued watches. This is before the 90s revival, or should I say Renaissance? Like what see what I did there? See what I did? Nice, with that deep cut, but if you get it, you get it.
The Depthmaster off the bat has outstanding legibility and orientation, thanks to those generous, bold Superluminova numerals, sword minute and Tudor style Ranger arrow hour hands for effective differentiation. We get the same automatic Soprod caliber P024 inside as we saw in the recently reviewed F77. So for more info on that movement, do check out the previous review. But long story short, it's robust, dependable, easy to maintain, and I'm a fan. The design does not stray from the 60s originals, in the same way all their watches don't. Just unpretentious modern updates with your typical upgrades like sapphire glass, supreme modern Swiss quality production, and I can't even stress how good it is. Just look at the super clean transitions on the finishing, easily up there with my Panerai even. Speaking of which, the cushion case has the same benefits as my Panerai in terms of comfort, but are heightened here because obviously it's smaller and it glides the fingers into position to manipulate the 120 click unidirectional brushed bezel that has very little play. The screw down crown also threads wonderfully, I must add.
Now, of course, the watch has some negatives too. This wouldn't be, well, this is more of a mini review or an unboxing initial impressions than my usual, but it wouldn't be an independent mini review if I didn't include the negatives. So let's take a look at that.
Personally, I'm not a fan of the faux patina here. A little too overbaked for my taste, but that is subjective. The hands do have slightly weaker lume compared to the rest, and I do wish the second hand had a lumed lollipop instead of being skeletonized. But having said that, I do love the pop of cherry red. It's a nice touch. The sunburst green is beguilingly strepitoso, somewhere between forest and pear green, I would say. But green, in my opinion, tends to be more difficult to match with clothing, and I'm also just not a fan of green in watches in general. But that, again, is just my particular taste. There are obviously other colours available. Lastly, the Art Deco dial layout and Radiomir style case. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to call it a Marmite watch, but they certainly are more of an acquired taste. Kind of like Panerai. It's a watch that you have to try in the metal to really appreciate, but this being smaller in scale will certainly be less divisive. The Depthmaster unquestionably ticks the same boxes as the aforementioned watch, but at a refreshingly modest scale. I hope you're listening, Panerai. And unlike the Panerai Due, which is their smallest watch, doesn't have a shockingly low water resistance of 30 meters. In fact, the polar opposite. I'm still shocked and surprised this case is relatively slender considering the rating. But along with its refreshingly modest size, it also has a storied lineage and a distinctive look that is both enough of its own thing, but yet still elegant and masculine, which is something undoubtedly Panerai does very, very well. But most importantly, at a fraction of the price. Pure class, if ever I saw it.
As much as it pains me to say this nausea-inducing phrase of value proposition, I can't deny it is. I mean, I can't think of anything that competes. The only brand that comes close is, well, quite frankly, Squale, and I think that is slightly more, I'll add fail there if I'm wrong, but I think they're more expensive than this. Completely beats all the big boys too, like the Orises of this world, the Longines, the Tissot's.
So in this section, I was supposed to do a second unboxing. It was going to be a double unboxing video, but unfortunately the package has been delayed by FedEx. But I will take this opportunity to address a few things. Now, on the Depthmaster, it came on this very, very lovely Italian leather strap. However, this is just not my style. It's beautifully done. They've even put a little bolt action there and a signed buckle. I have been wearing my Panerai on the Wrist Candy Watch Club rubber. There are some cheaper imitations of this on Alibaba, but do not be fooled because it's not the same quality FMK and robust rubber and temperature resistant rubber as this. So I got the 20mm version to go on this, and I think it really works, and it just gives it this kind of, because it's so thick, it kind of positions it really nicely on the wrist. I do have these as well in green. Look at that, that's overkill, don't you think? I think that's a bit, I don't know. If you're into green, yeah, sure. I was really looking forward to getting my date version of this, because then I could correct a bit of a blunder I did in the review. I wanted a date, and I prefer the blue color to get that real 72 Royal Oak vibe. This is a sample, so I got it wrong. The final ones, they did take out the date position apparently on those ones. So apologies to anyone I misled, or if you chose to go with date. A lot of people still went for it, despite me getting that wrong. So regardless, you're getting an even better watch than you expected. We started this video talking about the irritating repetitiveness around the annual new release hype of unobtainable watches. Well, the F77 proves you don't need to spend an arm and a leg to get one of the hottest releases of the year. The new IWC Engineer did sneak past my defences, no matter how many times I clicked not interested on Instagram. Someone in the comments of my F77 review asked if Nivada Grenchen was deliberately cashing in on the return of the Gentry Classic. Well, speaking from experience, it's merely fortuitous timing or great minds thinking alike. It takes anything up to a year, most often several, to design, test, produce, then release a watch. In fact, I'm already designing watches now for 2024, 25 and beyond. This is just how the industry works. It's not as fast moving as high fashion, so the trends that you see now are actually from a year or even more ago. Microbrands being smaller in scale makes them more agile and able to produce new watches quicker. Another reason why microbrands often have more interesting, trend-setting releases, with endless armchair watchmakers in the comments and online, along with people being ever more self-entitled and expecting everything immediately and for free. It's only something you understand once you've done it several times yourself. As for people asking if the F77 is a homage of the Royal Oak, well, it is and it isn't. Like all Nivada watches, and all those I've reviewed and explored, it's a reissue of a Nivada Grenchen, this time from 1977. So it was inspired by the AP of 1972, yes, but everyone was doing it back then. Look at Boulevard, Tissot, Piaget, Omega, etc., just to name a few. They all had their own take on Gentry's futuristic sports watch with an integrated bracelet. This trend defined the watches of the 1970s and well into the 80s. It's just part of the cyclical nature that the trend is coming back. However, on wrist, and as a former Royal Oak owner myself, I can unequivocally say it just feels completely different.
In the whole scheme of things, is the worst homage is obviously the replica at the bottom, and this is towards the top. It pays tribute, it homages in the non-watch enthusiast sense of the word, in the true definition of the word. In terms of accuracy of the two, the Depthmaster was the same as this. I mean, there were only a few seconds deviation a day. I wish brands would be more clear about to what level they regulate their watches. Maybe I missed it on the website.
The Depthmaster is an impressive saturation-capable diver, maybe the only one that is Swiss and automatic I can think of in its price range. That, along with its historic 1950s-inspired Arctic, which is an explorer-style watch, the Gentry-esque F77, and of course the iconic heavyweight Chronomaster, this positions Nivada Grenchen with this lineup into one of the strongest microbrands out there. All that is missing is a dress watch, but I suspect and predict they will command and conquer that in the following years. As for my own collection, one of my goals for this year was the impressive new Yema Wristmaster with its proprietary micro-rotor movement that I saw in person last year at a watch event in NYC. But now I have the F77 and a micro-rotor based white shadow, I think they might be just enough to scratch that Gentry itch. So I'm pretty chuffed with this awesome duo. Well, for now at least. Sorry, Yema.
So there we have it, another reason to wear my Rolexes even less now. Love to hear your feedback. What do you think they're getting right? What do you think they're getting wrong? What is your hottest brand of the year so far? This is so far, okay, it could completely change by the end of the year. Some new stuff could come out that could completely blow my mind. I should add the mark thing there. But do share the brands that are impressing you and the releases that are impressing you in the comments. I especially want to hear that. Or brands you think I should check out. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Onwards and upwards. Ciao.